I was basically an accident. When I was born, my 5 siblings were already in their late teens to early 20s, and my parents were both 46. I was never abused in my childhood, but I was neglected and my entire family resented me. My parents didn't think they'd get pregnant again, but here we are. I was never looked after for by anyone and basically had to raise myself. No one ever played with me, spent time with me, or anything. They never bought me anything significant, it was always hand-me-downs. I realized this as I got older and I focused on myself. I thought that something was wrong with me because my siblings all received love and attention, so if I improved myself and did things for them, maybe they'd accept and love me too. I always got the best grades, made sure I did all my chores, always kept my room clean, and so on. However, nothing I did was ever good enough for them. We celebrated my father's birthday yesterday. My siblings and my mom wouldn't be around until we went out for dinner, so it was just me and him. I cooked him breakfast and lunch, did all the chores, and bought him a tie. I'm only 16 and on a budget. The most he came up with was a pathetic thank you. I could tell he wanted me to leave him alone, so I did. Finally, we all went out to dinner and they all had a good time while I sat in the corner ignored. This is how it usually is. When we got home, I broke down and started crying in front of them. Boyfriend gave me sleeping pills before his boys' night out. I had been dating my boyfriend for a year and we always had a pretty trusting relationship. One weekend, he was going to have a boys' night out with his friends and I was going to stay home. However, earlier in the day, we had gone into an argument about how he never checks his phone while he's out or replies to my text to check in. He said he shouldn't have to check in with me while he's out and I disagreed because I just want to make sure that he's okay. Fast forward to later that night when he's getting ready, I told him that even though we're fighting, I still expect him to keep in touch with me. He agrees this time without putting up a fight and asks me if I want to have a drink with him before he goes. He makes us some cocktails and we drink them together while we wait for his friends to come pick him up. When his friends get there, he kisses me goodbye and leaves. Not even half an hour later, I'm knocked out cold. I remember waking up once just for a second to use the bathroom, but then knocking out again. In the morning when I woke up, he was asleep next to me and I was really confused as to why I slept so much when I wasn't even tired. When my boyfriend woke up, he mentioned how nice it was that I hadn't messaged him and how I must have slept through the night after those cocktails. This raised some red flags and I quickly questioned him about what was in the cocktails. At first, he called me crazy and told me that he didn't do anything to them. However, after about 20 minutes of accusing him, he finally confessed. Gender man and we've always wanted to start a family together. I have a huge fear of pregnancy, so he offered to carry the baby. It was an insane process. He had to stop taking testosterone for a long time, but he was amazing throughout the whole process and I did everything in my power to help him feel more comfortable. None of my family know that he's transgender. They're homophobic, transphobic, all the phobics, but our friends know. He posted an ultrasound on his private Instagram, not knowing that my sister follows him on a burner account. Well, she saw the photo and told my whole family. They were furious that I wouldn't tell them. Our plan was always to say that we adopted. They assumed I was the one pregnant and blew up on me, so I just let it go and rolled with the lie because I wasn't going to out my husband. The first couple of months, I let them visit. Eventually, I'd start eating big meals and purposely bloating myself to the point of discomfort so I looked pregnant. They said around the 6-month mark that I was remarkably small, but I just played it off. Eventually, I couldn't lie any longer, so I looked for every excuse in the book not to see my family. I turned down the offers of baby showers, gender reveal parties, and anything that would require us seeing each other. Luckily, my family lives an hour away and we all live busy lifestyles, so them randomly visiting wasn't an issue. The one time they did pop in unexpectedly, we were out of the house. If they FaceTimed, I made a point to be in bed feeling horribly sick so I couldn't give the bump update. I lied my ass off and they just thought that I had a rough pregnancy. My husband gave birth a year ago and went straight back on testosterone, and now we're happy as ever. My family have met our daughter and they adore her. However, a week ago, after an argument between myself and a friend, said friend decided to out my husband by messaging my family and included proof. They did it by adding everybody to a group chat, posting screenshots and basically the whole story, then saying, "I'll leave you all to discuss." Then they left the chat and blocked me and my husband. In a transphobic rage, my mother raced to my home and all but beat my front door down. I had to call the cops. I've been disowned, but that hasn't stopped the daily calls and texts coming from my parents, aunts, uncles, siblings, and etc. They've been leaving nasty transphobic slurs on my voicemail and other hateful crap. I ended up crying to my friend yesterday who told me that I should have been honest with my family as it would have saved me a lot of heartache. That, or we said we miscarried, then adopted later. I'm not happy things played out the way they did. I just feel so sad now. Was I wrong to lie to my family in order to protect my husband? Failed marriage. At the beginning of our relationship, I was really jealous of his late wife. He had pictures of her around his home, his family loved her and talked about her, his daughter the same, his friends the same. It was tough and I was comparing myself to her. She was beautiful, successful, and intelligent. She was a great mother, friend, wife, whatever you can think of. I know that people don't like to speak ill of the dead, but I believe them when they say these things. I spoke to my then boyfriend about these feelings and he even took down some of the pictures later in our relationship. Still, his house has never felt like my home as it felt like it was still hers. When we got engaged, we decided we would buy our home and we moved in right before we got married. During the moving process, I found box after box of old photos and other materials. Photos of his ex, family photos, photos of them together, baby photos, everything. Some of these were Polaroids, they were so old. They had been together for many, many years and had so much history together. I don't know why at that moment I snapped, but I did. There was a box of her things and I donated some of the items and threw the rest away. I even went onto the computer and deleted photos he had stored on there. At the time, I felt like I won maybe? I don't even know what I was thinking this would accomplish, but I did it. For the past 2 years, my husband hasn't noticed. My stepdaughter turns 18 soon. She's a very intelligent girl. She graduated early, goes to a top-tier school, and is very well adjusted for someone who lost their mother so young. We have never been that close. I care for her, I do, but she never opened up to me and has never viewed me as a mom to her. I understand, but it hurts. Anyway, my husband's mom wanted photos of her as she was putting something together for her. He went to look for them, and as you can imagine, they weren't there. He asked me about them, and I admitted everything to him, as I wasn't going to lie to him. He's very angry at me and can barely look at me. I've asked him to go to marriage counseling, but he refuses. I'm 13 weeks pregnant, and I'm trying to manage the stress. He's devastated, not just for his daughter, but for himself. I know he loved his late wife very much, and if she was still here, he'd probably still be with her. He's been in tears half of the time when he's speaking to me, and he won't sleep in the same room as me. I've tried to explain that I felt guilty ever since and why I did it, but he doesn't care. He asked me what he's supposed to tell his daughter. Some of the materials that I donated and threw away were really important. I know that I screwed up. I know that I need to make this up to my husband and his daughter, but I don't know how to. This was such a monumental screw up on my part. I've always been jealous of her and did not handle my emotions correctly. I tried to track down photos of her by other people, and while I did find some from his parents and her friends, her parents died when she was young and she was raised by her grandparents who are now dead. There aren't many out there. I love my husband and I want to fix this more than anything. I know that I'm hormonal right now and my mind is wandering around to every outcome that could happen. But what if it's the end of my marriage? I can't let that happen and I need to fix this. What should I do? He needs to see a doctor. I met this girl at a camping event and we hit it off pretty well. I was pretty damn religious at the time and took the whole no sex before marriage rule to heart. Dating wasn't allowed in my family until you hit 18 and I was 17 at the time. By the end of the trip, she asked for my IG, which I replied, I don't use IG. Then she asked for my Snapchat. I don't have a Snapchat either. Finally, she asked, what do you use? And I told her Facebook. You'd think her going out of her way to add me on a platform that she hasn't used in years would be a hint, but nope. My dumb ass just thought, at least she'll get to know how good Messenger is now. Fast forward about 2 weeks, we've been talking consistently for a while and she's subtly mentioning all these ideal date spots in the city and all I could reply with was, wow, looks like a great spot. Let me know how it is if you ever go there. At this point, she went for the Hail Mary and sent me a picture of her thigh pointing out a mole that she hasn't noticed before. I went into diagnosis mode and told her Google said it could either be a mole or cancer. She laughed thinking that I was joking when I wasn't and asked if I was free for a video call. I answered the call and there she was, naked in a fucking towel with the camera zooming into her cleavage. That's when she says, I noticed a mole right here too, as she points to the camera right above her nipple and almost slips the towel. My dumb ass responds, hate to break it to you, but I ain't a doctor. If you're worried about it, you should really have it checked out. The call ended abruptly afterwards and she stopped messaging me after that day for a week. Then she blocked me. I was dumbfounded and thought, if she really hates being my friend that much, then she should have at least had the decency to be upfront about it. Fast forward to today while I was sitting in my place, watching some Netflix, when out of nowhere this flashback hit me like a truck carrying years worth of obliviousness. My husband, who's the same age as me. We have a 2-year-old daughter and now we're expecting our second child. My brother, 26, is married to my sister-in-law, 25. My sister-in-law is infertile and it's nearly impossible for her to have kids. At first, she was devastated, but now she's come to terms with it and doesn't care anymore. My sister-in-law has a dog that she's had since high school. The dog is 9 years old, and they have a second dog they adopted with my brother, which is 4 years old. I respect their decisions, but I don't really like dogs, and I hate when people do more for their dogs than they do for their siblings, nephews, or nieces. These dogs are getting more spoiled by my brother than his own niece, my daughter. I've expressed my views on it, but everyone tells me to mind my own business. So last week, my sister-in-law's senior dog got hit by a car, and the dog now needs surgery and therapies, which are a bit pricey. My brother and sister-in-law were very quick to open their pockets and pay for every single expense of the dog's surgery and therapies. When I found out, I complained to them that I wish they had the same energy for their niece like they do with their animals. My brother said that my daughter has never been in an emergency where she could need all that money and that if she had an emergency, they would help. I said it's unreasonable to care more about dogs when my kid is right here and I'm expecting another one soon who barely gets the same love. That's when my sister-in-law said, with all due respect, I understand you adore your kid and you'll love your second one too, and I will love your kids too, but my dogs are family and I do anything to provide a good life for them. I told my sister-in-law that it's a good thing that she's infertile because she'd be a terrible mother since she prioritized her fur babies over actual human children. My brother and sister-in-law got very offended and don't speak to me now. My husband said that while I was right, I shouldn't straight up tell them that. My parents claim that I'm an asshole for saying this, but they agree to some extent, but not totally. Am I the asshole for telling my sister-in-law I'm glad she's infertile because she'd be a terrible mother? Fair to his wife. I work in a call center. It's no career, but it's a pretty nice job with some decent people and it's easy. All we do really is facilitate switches for people looking for better deals on household stuff, usually their internet provider or supplier of gas and electricity. We have agents in the field who make sales, then call us for verification with the customer. Simple, right? Not today. See, usually it's company policy not to do callbacks. Nobody wants annoying call center calls, right? So unless a customer specifically requests a scheduled callback, we just don't do them. I had a customer 2 days ago looking for a pretty pricey internet switch. He was going from a basic setup to a full TV, phone, internet package, which was coming over to $100 a month. I informed the customer, who's an impatient sounding guy, that because of the price increase, he'll need to have a quick credit check run on him and it'll mean that the call takes a little longer. The guy gets all pissed about being busy and saying that he can't waste all afternoon on the phone with some call center. So would it be alright if I called him after the weekend to go through it then? Seems straightforward enough. I scheduled a call and asked if there was a specific time he wanted me to call. He says anytime is fine and follows with, if Emily answers, just ask her for me, she'll make sure I get the phone, and gave me a home phone number. Fast forward to today and I make a grave error. See, the application I had from the customer had his home phone number already filled in, which it turns out it was not the same number he'd given me for today's callback. I called the number I thought was correct and a woman answers. I say without thinking, "Oh, hi. I'm calling for Steve to confirm his broadband switch. We spoke the other day. You must be Emily." Cue uncomfortable pause. She says, "This is Steve's wife, Amanda." "What do you mean I must be Emily?" I apologized and said, "I'm so sorry. When I spoke to him the other day, he said if an Emily answered to just ask for Steve." And she just goes, "I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it," and slammed the phone down. After checking the application against the post-it note, I jotted some info down on the other day, and I realized that Steve must have given me the number for where he was going to be today, and I'd instead called his unsuspecting wife at home. Angry Steve ended up calling my workplace. He put in complaints and tried to get me fired. However, it turns out that when an application is put through by an agent, it must be the applicant's own details. So I was only technically allowed to call the wife anyway, not Emily's phone number as he gave me. If he wanted the call to be a different number, he would have had to have a new application submitted with revised details. It wasn't enough just to give me a different number over the phone. So in the end, I got a write-up, but I didn't lose my job. Story time about the time I messed up by explaining synesthesia to my boyfriend. I have grapheme color synesthesia. Basically, I see letters and numbers in colors. The letter E being green, for example. A couple months ago, I was explaining it to my boyfriend who's a bit of a skeptic. He asked me what color certain letters and numbers are and had me write them down. Since then, he'll randomly quiz me and compare my answer to what I said a few months ago. Always being the same-ish, of course. He still seemed a bit skeptic, as if maybe I just memorized them really, really well. Tonight, we were laying in bed and my boyfriend quizzed me again. I tried explaining to him I just see colors automatically when I visualize the letters in my head. I asked him what color are the letters in his head. He looked at me weirdly like, "What do you mean in my head? That's not a thing." My boyfriend didn't understand what I meant by visualizing the letters. He didn't believe that I could visualize letters or even visualize anything in my head. Well, it turns out my boyfriend has aphantasia. When he tries to visualize stuff, he just sees blackness. He can't picture anything in his mind and thought that everyone else had it the same way. He thought it was just an expression to say, "Picture this," or etc. It's crazy to him the fact that I can picture his face without looking at him or a banana without looking at it. Now I have a boyfriend that's really remember entering our room. We told him he could either move out, go to therapy, or we could move out and he would have to find new roommates. He basically told us no. He said we had no authority to kick him out and that blackmailing him with the videos was illegal. Unfortunately, he was on our lease, so there wasn't much we could do without taking legal action. So we got to work. We started looking for a new place to live, started looking for a lawyer, filed a police report, and made plans to file for a restraining order. But every single day I was constantly anxious at work and fearful in my own home because it was clear that he had absolutely no remorse. After about a week with no sleep and constant fear, I finally spoke to my boss about the situation. My concerns were taken seriously and they immediately began taking steps to help me. I showed them the videos and they agreed that his actions were completely unacceptable and, due to the nature of our work, he's considered a liability and a danger to other employees. They made sure I was in a safe place before they suspended him while they investigated him. During his suspension, I met with my bosses where they continued to support me and ensure my safety. They also made plans to terminate him as he also had multiple negative performance reports. So this whole deal was a nail in his coffin. However, Taylor quit before they had the chance to fire him. The day after he quit, he got all of his crap out of the apartment and signed documents removing himself from the lease. He has not attempted to contact me since. This whole situation has been extremely emotionally draining. It has caused a lot of painful memories and emotions to resurface. Looking back on our friendship now, I can recall multiple red flags in which he crossed clear personal boundaries, shrieked "fine" before storming off. The burger took a long time to make, probably because they shut the grill down too early and I didn't get it until after 9. While I was eating, the waitress was constantly hovering me, which I didn't appreciate after a long day's work. By the time I was finished and paid, it was around 9:25. I thought the waitress was rude and inconsiderate, so I didn't tip her. I paid for good service, not to be berated. After all of this, the waitress confronted me while I was walking to my car and kept calling me an a-hole. I feel like this further justified me not leaving a tip, but some folks at my work today actually took her side. Shouldn't a restaurant's posted hours mean they welcome customers before then? Shouldn't going on a And what? That's what she's supposed to do. Then my wife got all dramatic and said, "Oh my God, please don't tell me you said that to her." Then we got into a huge argument while I'm in the shower, mind you. All I wanted to do was come home, take a shower, eat dinner, and go to bed. Not deal with all this crap. My wife wanted me to apologize, but I told her I don't see what I have to apologize for. I came out to eat and talk to Alyssa, but my wife, still in her bad mood, said that Alyssa had lost her appetite and cried herself to sleep. Either my wife is over-exaggerating, which she tends to do when she's in a bad mood and wants to make me feel bad, or Alyssa inherited her mother's dramaticness. Then she wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the time, and he said that he found me really attractive, but he felt weird having sex with someone who knew him since he was born. However, for the first time in years, I didn't feel that pang of depression and loneliness. I didn't want to feel that again, so I told Justin if he wouldn't share my bed with me, he would have to leave. He agreed to sleep with me again, and for 5 months we've had—
I'm not dangerous, I'm not dangerous, I'm not dangerous, but I can make you bleed. I'm not dangerous, love, 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 dangerous, make you. When